Cold rain fell over the alien forest, hitting the leaves like tiny metal drops. The night was thick, and the wind carried a strange smell of smoke and fear. In the middle of this wild storm, a young alien princess ran barefoot through the mud, breathing fast, her heart shaking inside her chest. Her silver skin was scratched, her clothes were torn, and her long blue hair was tangled with leaves. Every few steps she looked back, terrified, because she knew someone was following her. Her name was Princess Arila, and she was supposed to be safe inside her royal palace. But tonight, everything changed. Her own people turned against her. Her guards, her advisors, even her closest maid, everyone betrayed her. They all wanted the same thing, the power she carried, the power she never asked for. Arila held something tight in her hand, something glowing softly in the dark. It was a small crystal stone, round, warm, and shining with a faint blue light. Her mother had given it to her on the day she died. Her mother told her, "Never let anyone take this. You are the last true heir. This stone is your proof, and your weapon." Now that stone was the only thing standing between her and death. A sudden crack behind her made her freeze. A branch broke. Someone stepped on it. Someone close. Arila felt her breath stop. "Find the girl." A deep voice shouted through the trees. "The crown belongs to us now." She covered her mouth, tears building in her eyes. She wanted to scream, she wanted to run forever, but her legs were weak. She had not eaten for hours. She was cold, scared, and alone. Lightning flashed. For a moment, she saw shapes moving behind her. 3 soldiers, wearing dark armor, carrying long blades. They were getting closer. Arila turned and ran again, pushing branches away with trembling hands. Her feet slipped in the mud, and she fell hard on her knees. The glowing stone almost fell from her grip. She crawled, trying to stand up again. Just then, she saw something strange in the distance, an object lying half buried in the ground, metal shining under the rain. It was a crashed escape pod. Smoke rose from its side, and sparks flickered near its broken panels. She had never seen technology like this before. It wasn't from her world. She whispered to herself. "What is that?" Then she heard footsteps again, louder this time, closer. The soldiers were only seconds away. Arila had no choice. She ran to the escape pod and pulled open its damaged door. The inside was dark, smelling like burnt metal. She crawled in, and there, inside the pod, she saw something that made her freeze completely. A human, a real human. He was lying on the floor of the pod, unconscious, breathing slowly. He had brown hair, a strong face, and blood on his arm. His clothes were torn, and he looked like he had been in a terrible crash. Arila had only heard stories about humans. Long ago, her mother told her humans were strong, brave, and loyal. But she never thought she would meet one especially like this. Another lightning flash lit the pod. The human's face looked calm but injured. His chest rose and fell gently. Arila touched his shoulder with shaking fingers. "Please, wake up," she whispered in a small voice. "Please, I need help. You are my last hope." Suddenly, a shadow appeared outside the pod door. A long blade reflected in the rain. A soldier. He stood just a few steps away. Arila covered her mouth, praying he would not see her. Her heart pounded so loudly, she thought the soldier would hear it. The soldier leaned down, looking inside the pod. Arila held her breath. He stepped 1 foot closer. The human still did not move. The soldier raised his blade. Arila squeezed her eyes shut. Then the human's hand twitched slowly. His eyes opened, and he looked straight at the soldier. The soldier froze. The human pushed himself up with surprising strength, grabbed a metal rod lying beside him, and swung it with full force. The rod hit the soldier's arm, knocking the blade out of his hand. The soldier stumbled back, shocked. Rain roared outside. The human stood between the soldier and the princess, breathing hard, confused but alert. Arila stared at him with wide eyes. She could not believe it. A human had woken up for her. A human had protected her. The soldier shouted, "There is a human! A human is alive!" And the forest echoed with danger. Arila realized her life had changed forever. Rain crashed against the metal escape pod as the human stood in front of the princess, holding the metal rod like a weapon. His breaths were sharp, and his eyes tried to focus even though he was still dizzy from the crash. His name, he remembered slowly, was Evan Hull, a simple mechanic from a faraway human colony. But right now, he did not feel simple. He felt like someone who had just woken into a nightmare. The alien soldier outside stepped back, shocked to see a real human alive. For a moment, both the soldier and Evan stared at each other through the rain. Then the soldier shouted into the trees, "The girl is here! And a human too!" Evan didn't understand the alien language, but the tone was clear. More trouble was coming. Princess Arila grabbed Evan's arm with shaking fingers. "Please, please run," she whispered, her voice breaking. "More of them are coming." Evan looked down at her, small, terrified, soaked in rain, and something inside him tightened. He didn't know who she was or what had happened, but he could see she was in danger. Real danger, and Evan had never been the kind of man who ignored someone needing help. The soldier lunged forward, raising a knife-like blade. Evan reacted fast, blocking the attack with the metal rod. Sparks burst as metal hit metal. Evan swung again, shoving the soldier back. "Go!" Evan shouted at the princess, pointing deeper into the forest, but Arila shook her head. "No, I can't leave you." Her voice was soft but filled with more courage than he expected. The soldier attacked again. Evan ducked, grabbed the soldier's wrist and twisted. The blade dropped. Evan kicked him away, and the soldier fell into the mud. But more shadows were now appearing in the trees. Arila gasped. "They followed me. They want the stone. They want me." Evan blinked. "What stone?" She held up the glowing crystal in her hand. Even through the rain and fear, it pulsed like a living heart. Evan's eyes widened a little, but he didn't have time to ask more. 3 more soldiers emerged. Their eyes glowed under the armor. Their long blades shimmered dangerously. Evan pulled the princess behind him. "Stay close," he said in a steady voice. The first soldier charged, and Evan dodged sideways, hitting him with the rod. The second soldier swung a blade at Evan's head, but Evan blocked it, feeling the impact shoot pain up his arm. These aliens were stronger than humans, and Evan's body was still weak from the crash. He knew he couldn't fight them all. A loud roar of thunder shook the forest. In that flash of light, Arila saw something the soldiers didn't. She pointed to a narrow path hidden behind thick roots. "There," she whispered urgently. "I know a safe place. We must run now." Evan nodded. "Lead the way." The princess grabbed his hand and pulled him into the darkness. They ran through mud, branches scratching their faces. Evan breathed hard, trying to ignore the burning pain in his ribs. He could hear the soldiers shouting behind them, after them. Arila looked back, tears mixing with the rain. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I brought danger to you." Evan shook his head. "We'll talk later. Just keep moving." They pushed through thick bushes until the forest suddenly opened into a narrow valley. Strange glowing plants lit the path, giving the air a soft blue color. Arila knew this place. Her mother once brought her here when she was little. "This way," she said softly. "My mother said only true heirs can enter." Evan didn't understand what that meant, but he followed. Behind them, the sound of alien boots grew louder. They had maybe seconds before they were caught. Arila reached a huge stone wall covered in ancient symbols. Her hands trembled as she pressed the glowing stone to the wall. For a moment nothing happened. Then the wall shifted. A hidden door opened. Evan stared in disbelief. "What is this place?" A sanctuary, Arila whispered. My mother's secret. They rushed inside. The door closed behind them with a heavy thud. Silence. Finally, they could breathe. Evan leaned against the wall, exhausted. Pain throbbed through his body. Okay, he said, panting. Start talking. Who are you? Why are they chasing you? Why am I fighting sword-waving aliens 5 minutes after waking up? Arila lowered her head. She looked fragile, like a child holding too many heavy secrets. I am Princess Arila, the last true heir of the Lyria kingdom, she said. And they want me dead because they want the power I carry. Evan frowned. Power? You mean that stone? She nodded. This stone can control ancient machines that can protect peace or destroy planets. Evan stared at her, understanding slowly setting in, and, your people betrayed you? Her eyes filled with tears. Everyone. Except you. Evan sighed. He didn't sign up for this. He didn't even know if he still had a ship, a home, or a way off this world. But as he looked at the trembling princess who had lost everything, he already knew his decision. I'll help you, he said finally. Arila gasped softly. You will? Evan nodded. Yeah, someone has to protect you, right? And somewhere outside the sanctuary, the traitor soldiers prepared their next move. The real war had just started. Deep inside the hidden sanctuary, the soft blue glow from the walls slowly faded until only a gentle hum remained. Princess Arila sat on the cold stone floor, hugging her knees, trying to calm her shaking breath. Evan, still leaning against the wall, rubbed his injured shoulder and looked around with wary eyes. The place felt ancient, older than her kingdom, older than her people. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the air smelled like dust and old memories. But even inside this secret refuge, Evan could sense something unsettling. They were not safe. Not yet. Arila finally broke the silence. The sanctuary cannot hide us for long, she whispered. They will search every corner of the forest. They know I cannot disappear forever. Evan exhaled slowly. We need a plan then. Somewhere to go. Someone to trust. Arila looked away. There is no one left. Evan studied her face, so young, yet carrying a weight no child should carry. He wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. Instead, he pushed himself up and walked toward the far side of the sanctuary. That was when he noticed something strange, an opening in the wall, half hidden behind roots and vines. Hey, he said quietly. Is that supposed to be there? Arila stood up and stepped closer. Her eyes widened. A passage. I didn't know this existed. Evan pulled aside the vines, revealing a narrow tunnel leading into darkness. A cool wind blew from inside, carrying the scent of night air mixed with distant water. It leads out, Arila said, touching the wall gently. My mother must have known. She must have left this for me. Good, Evan said. Then we use it. Arila hesitated. But outside, the hunters will be everywhere. Evan gave a small smile. Better outside than trapped here. At least out there, we can move. Arila nodded slowly, gathering what courage she had left. They stepped into the tunnel. Their footsteps echoed softly. The tunnel twisted left, then right, and finally opened into a small exit hidden behind thick bushes. Evan peeked out first. It was still night, but the storm had weakened. The jungle around them glowed faintly with bioluminescent plants, lighting the path in strange blue-green colors. Large trees with twisting roots towered above them. Tiny glowing insects floated through the air like drifting stars. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. Evan whispered, "Stay close." Arila moved beside him. Holding the stone against her chest, they began walking, trying to stay quiet. But every sound felt louder in the silence, every rustle, every breath. The jungle was alive, watching them. After a few minutes, Arila pointed to a narrow path. This way. There is a river nearby. If we follow it downstream, we might reach an old village. It used to be loyal to my family. Used to be? Evan raised an eyebrow. She swallowed. I do not know if they still are. Evan sighed. Great, more surprises. They continued forward. Suddenly a bright beam of light flashed across the trees. Arila gasped. Evan grabbed her wrist and pulled her behind a large root. Above them, a hovering drone moved slowly through the trees, scanning the area. Its mechanical eye shone red. Arila whispered, That belongs to General Varkin, my uncle's strongest supporter. Evan watched the drone pass. If that thing sees us, it won't be a friendly hello. They waited until the drone moved away, its humming fading into the distance. When it was gone, Evan let out a breath. Come on, let's move. They walked deeper into the jungle, stepping carefully between roots and glowing mushrooms. The forest felt like a giant maze. Sometimes they heard strange animal calls. Sometimes branches snapped behind them, making Arila jump each time. Why do they want you so badly? Evan asked while climbing over a fallen tree. Arila hesitated before answering. Because I am not supposed to be alive. Evan turned to look at her, confused. Arila continued. My uncle told everyone I died in the palace fire. He planned it. He wanted the throne. And the stone. If people know I survived, his lies fall apart. So he wants the whole kingdom to believe you're gone, Evan said slowly. And if he finds you alive? Arila nodded weakly. He will finish what he started. Evan clenched his jaw. Then we won't let him find you. A loud snap echoed through the jungle. They both froze. From the shadows, glowing eyes appeared, not soldiers. Something worse still, large creatures with long limbs and sharp claws crawled down from the trees. Their skin shimmered like wet metal. Their mouths opened with a low, hungry growl. Arila whispered in terror. Night hunters. Evan stepped in front of her. Great, from soldiers to monsters. This day just keeps getting better. The creatures circled them slowly, their claws tapping against the ground. Arila stepped back, trembling. Evan tightened his grip on a broken branch he picked up earlier. It wasn't much, but it was something. One of the creatures lunged. Evan swung with all his strength, hitting its jaw. The creature shrieked and fell back. Then another jumped at Arila. Evan grabbed her arm and pulled her close. Run, he shouted. They sprinted through the jungle as the night hunters roared behind them. Branches whipped their faces. Mud splashed under their feet. The glowing river appeared ahead. Evan shouted, Jump! They leaped into the river as the creatures reached the shore, screeching with frustration. The strong current pulled them away into the darkness, carrying them to an uncertain future. But away from immediate death. For now, the river carried Evan and Princess Arila through the dark jungle like two helpless leaves. The current was strong, the water cold, and every breath felt like a struggle. But at least the night hunters could not follow them into the raging water. When the current finally slowed, Evan managed to grab a large vine hanging from a tree above the riverbank. With one hand he held on, and with the other he pulled Arila toward him. Their clothes were soaked, their bodies shivering, but they were alive. Evan helped Arila climb out of the water. You okay? He asked, breathing hard. Arila nodded, but her lips trembled. Yes, thank you. You saved me again. Let's hope I don't have to make a habit of it, he said with a tired smile. They walked away from the river, dripping water along the glowing path. The jungle was quieter here. The strange lights from the trees reflected softly off the wet leaves, giving everything a calm but eerie glow. Arila hugged herself, trying to stay warm. Evan noticed and placed his jacket around her shoulders. It was torn and muddy, but she accepted it with gratitude. You humans always do this? She asked softly. Do what? Give away what you need to help others? Evan shrugged. Not all humans. But I try. Arila stared at him for a moment, as if trying to read something deep inside him. Then she looked down at the glowing stone in her hand. "We must keep moving," she whispered. Before the soldiers reached this side of the forest, they walked deeper into a new part of the jungle one Arila had never seen before. The trees here were taller, older, and their roots twisted like giant sleeping serpents. Strange symbols were carved into the trunks, symbols that made Arila frown with confusion. "My mother. She told me stories of this place," she whispered. "But I thought they were only stories." Evan raised an eyebrow. "What kind of stories?" Arila touched one of the carvings gently. "Stories of the first ancients. Beings who lived long before our kingdom existed. They created machines stronger than armies, and stones that held knowledge beyond imagination." Evan looked at the glowing crystal in her hand. "Like the one you're carrying." She nodded. They continued walking until they reached a wide clearing. At the center stood a massive stone structure shaped like a half-buried tower. Overgrown vines covered it, but part of it still shone faintly under the moonlight. Arila gasped. "It's real. The Temple of Echoes." Evan looked around. "Temple? Echoes? Sounds like fun." Arila didn't smile. "This place holds the truth about my bloodline. My mother told me that only the rightful heir can open it." Evan crossed his arms. "So your uncle wants the stone because with the stone, he can unlock every ancient machine on our world," Arila said. "Machines that can destroy whole cities, or control entire populations." Evan let out a low breath. "So this isn't just about a throne. It's about power." "Yes," Arila whispered. "Power no one should control." They approached the temple. The entrance was blocked by a large stone door carved with swirling patterns. When Arila held her glowing stone closer, the patterns shimmered like living light. Evan stepped back. "Is it safe?" "I don't know," she admitted, but she took a deep breath and pressed the stone to the center of the door. Deep rumbling sound echoed through the clearing. The ground shook. The vines pulled away as if alive. Slowly, the massive stone doors slid open, revealing a long hallway filled with floating lights. Evan stared, stunned. "Okay, that's new." Arila stepped forward cautiously. "This place belongs to my family. Only our blood can activate it." Evan followed close behind. Inside, thousands of glowing symbols floated in the air like tiny stars. The walls were covered in drawing stories, painted in ancient language. Evan touched one softly. It showed a figure holding a glowing stone while standing before a giant machine. "What is all this?" he whispered. Arila's eyes widened as she read the ancient symbols. These are the secrets of the ancients. This is their history. And mine." She walked to a large platform in the center of the hall. When she stood on it, the entire room lit up. A projection of her mother appeared made of pure light. Arila gasped and stepped back. "Arila," the projection said in a soft voice. "If you are seeing this, then you are the last of our blood. You must protect the stone. Do not let your uncle open the gateways. Only you can stop him." Arila covered her mouth, tears falling. Evan watched quietly, feeling her pain as if it were his own. The projection continued. "And if a human stands beside you, trust him. Humans carry courage unlike any race. Together, you may save our world." Silence filled the temple. Arila turned to Evan, tears on her cheeks. "My mother knew you would come." Evan blinked. "Me? I didn't even know I'd come." But deep inside, something told him this was no accident. Arila whispered, "You are not just helping me. You are part of the prophecy." Outside the temple, far away in the jungle, horns echoed. The soldiers had found their trail. The time to hide was ending. "Princess." Arila stood frozen on the glowing platform. her mother's projection fading slowly into dust-like light. Evan stepped closer, unsure whether he should speak or give her a moment. Her tears reflected the floating symbols around the chamber, making her look like a fragile star lost in a universe too big. She knew, Arila whispered. She knew everything. Even you. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't exactly plan to crash land and get pulled into a royal family war. Arila turned to him with soft, trembling eyes. But you came. You are here. That is what matters. Before Evan could respond, the temple walls vibrated with a low, thundering sound. The glowing patterns on the stone flickered. Arila stiffened. They are close, she breathed. My uncle's forces. They must have tracked us. Evan immediately scanned the room. Any back door? Secret exit? Magic teleportation portal? She blinked. Magic what? Never mind. Just tell me there's a way out. Arila pointed toward another corridor that wrapped behind the main chamber. There is a secondary chamber. My mother said it holds a defensive mechanism. Something ancient. Ancient is better than nothing, Evan said. Lead the way. They hurried down the corridor, the floating lights following them as if curious. The deeper they went, the louder the vibrations became, like thunder stepping closer with every second. The secondary chamber was circular and far larger. At the center stood a towering device made of crystal and metal, shaped like a giant heart. It pulsed faintly, as if asleep. Evan whistled. Okay, that's something. Arila approached the heart-shaped machine slowly. The heart of Lyria, she whispered. My mother said it can protect the rightful heir. Then let's turn it on, Evan said. Arila placed her glowing stone into a slot on the machine. The response was immediate. The entire chamber lit up in bright waves of blue and white. Symbols raced across the walls. The floor shook. The machine awakened like a sleeping beast opening its eyes. Evan stepped back. I hope it protects us and doesn't explode. Arila ignored his comment. She closed her eyes, allowing the machine to read her energy, her bloodline. The glowing stone pulsed like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a heavy crash shook the temple. Voices echoed from the main hall. Princess Arila. Come out. Evan recognized the voice. It was deeper, colder, more arrogant than the others. Her uncle, General Varkan. Arila froze. He's here. Evan grabbed her wrist gently. Stay focused. The machine needs you. Heavy footsteps marched closer. Soldiers filled the hall, blades drawn, armor shining under the temple lights. The ground trembled under their boots. Evan placed himself between Arila and the corridor. Her uncle's shadow appeared first. Then his tall figure stepped into the chamber entrance, broad shoulders, dark armor covered in red markings, and eyes that looked hungry for the throne. Arila, he said with a fake smile. You made this far more difficult than it needed to be. Arila clenched her fists. You betrayed us. You killed Mother. You lied to the kingdom. Varkan spread his arms. I did what was necessary. And I will do it again. He raised his hand. Take her. Soldiers rushed forward. Evan met them head-on, blocking the corridor with raw determination. He swung a piece of broken metal pipe he found earlier, hitting one soldier in the helmet. Another tried to push through, but Evan shoved him back. Evan grunted. Little help here? Arila turned to the heart of Lyria. The machine glowed brighter and brighter, reacting to her fear, her courage, her bloodline. Her stone pulsed rapidly. Her mother's voice whispered in the chamber, again not a projection this time, but an echo recorded long ago. When danger comes, let your heart open the heart of our world. Arila placed both hands on the machine and whispered, Please, protect us. The heart of Lyria roared alive. A shockwave burst from the machine, blasting outward like a storm of pure light. Soldiers were thrown backward. Some crashed into walls. Others collapsed on the ground. Stunned, Evan felt the wave pass gently over him like a warm breeze. He looked back at Arila in disbelief. What was that? Arila stepped back from the machine, her eyes glowing faintly. It protects the air. But only for a moment. General Varkin shielded himself with a dark device on his arm. The shockwave hit him, but he forced himself to stay standing. He roared, "You cannot escape your fate." Evan grabbed Arila's hand. "We need to go, now." With the machine still pulsing behind them, they sprinted through another hidden passage that opened during the shockwave. The temple walls closed slowly behind them as if trying to protect their escape. Arila's breath shook. "Where will we go?" Evan squeezed her hand. "Somewhere your uncle will never expect." Behind them, Varkin's furious roar shook the temple. "Find them. Do not let them leave the forest." The hunt was not over. It was only beginning. Evan and Princess Arila ran through the hidden passage, their footsteps echoing in the narrow stone corridor. The glowing lights from the heart of Lyria faded behind them as the door sealed shut, trapping General Varkin and his soldiers inside the main chamber, at least for now. Arila's breathing was shaky. Her legs trembled with fear and exhaustion. "He will not stop," she whispered. "He will chase us until I am dead." Evan squeezed her arm gently. "Then we stay ahead of him. One step at a time. We'll figure this out." The corridor eventually opened into a wide cavern lit by soft blue crystals growing from the walls. The cavern stretched far and deep, like a massive underground world hidden for centuries. A thin mist covered the floor, swirling around their ankles as they walked. Arila touched one of the crystals, and it responded with a faint hum. "This is ancient energy," she said. "Very old. Older than our kingdom." Evan looked around. "Does it mean danger?" "It means secrets," Arila answered softly. But before she could explain, the cavern rumbled lightly, as if something large had moved somewhere in the dark. Evan held out his arm protectively. "Stay behind me." They walked carefully, the cavern twisting through sharp turns. The walls were covered in carvings, stories of battles, ancient rulers, and powerful machines. Evan brushed his fingers against one carving that showed a giant warrior standing beside a small child. Arila studied it. The ancients believed that true strength protects the weak. Power without kindness is nothing. Evan smiled faintly. "Your mother believed the same." They continued deeper until the cavern opened into a massive chamber with a stone bridge stretching across a bottomless pit. Mist drifted upward from the darkness below. Arila hesitated. "I do not like this place." Evan stepped onto the bridge, first to test it. The stone felt solid. "We have to cross," he said. "It's the only way forward." Halfway across the bridge, a soft voice called from behind. "Arila." "Wait!" They both spun around. Arila's eyes widened in shock. A figure stepped from the shadows, an alien woman with soft purple skin, dark hair braided neatly, and eyes filled with worry. She wore simple traveler clothes, nothing like the soldier's armor. Arila gasped. "Lyra?" Evan was confused. "Who is that?" Arila whispered. "She was my nurse. Before the palace burned." Lyra walked toward them slowly, hands raised to show she carried no weapon. "Child, I have searched for you everywhere. When your uncle lied and said you died, I refused to believe him." Arila's eyes filled with tears. You weren't part of the betrayal?" "Never," Lyra said softly. "I loved your mother. I loved you. I would never harm you." Evan stepped closer to Arila. He didn't like how convenient this was. "How did you find us?" Lyra smiled sadly. "The temple's shockwave. It shook the forest. I followed the light. I knew only you could activate it." Arila took a step forward, desperate for comfort. "I thought I had no one left." Lyra opened her arms as if inviting a hug, but Evan's instincts screamed wrong. His muscles tensed. Arila. Wait, Arila frowned. Evan, she is. But she stopped speaking. Lyra's expression changed. Soft sadness became a cold, sharp smile. Lyra tilted her head. You always were too trusting, little princess. Arila froze. Evan cursed under his breath. I knew it. Lyra stepped forward, dropping her pretending. Your mother trusted me too. Trust is a weakness. What are you saying? Arila whispered, horrified. I was the one who let the soldiers into the palace, Lyra said calmly. I opened the gates. I led your mother into the trap. Arila's hand flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Evan stepped in front of her, anger burning in his eyes. Why? Why betray them? Lyra's voice was icy. Your uncle promised me power. A place beside him. A world shaped by the strong, not ruled by a child. Arila shook her head violently. Mother loved you. Yes, Lyra said coldly. And she was weak, sentimental. That is why she died. Evan gripped his metal rod tightly. Back off. But Lyra pulled out a dark crystal device, its core glowing blood red. It pulsed dangerously. Arila gasped. That is a null stone. It cancels ancient machines. Even the heart of Lyria. Lyra raised it. Your mother hid you for too long. Time to finish what we started. She pressed the device. The bridge shook violently. Cracks spread across the stone. Pieces began to crumble and fall into the pit below. Evan grabbed Arila's arm. Run! Arila cried as she ran beside him, the betrayal cutting deeper than any blade. Behind them, Lyra laughed, lifting the null stone higher. The bridge shattered as they reached the far side. Evan leaped with all his strength, pulling Arila with him. They fell onto solid ground just as the bridge collapsed completely. Dust filled the air. On the other side of the chasm, Lyra stood smiling, her eyes cold. You cannot run forever, she said. Your uncle's army is already here. Evan pulled Arila close as she sobbed quietly, her whole world falling apart again. Lyra's final words echoed across the cavern. The age of your family is over. Long live the new king. Then she vanished into the shadows. Evan held Arila as she cried, whispering gently, You still have me. I'm not leaving you. Arila clung to him, her heart shattered, but not destroyed. If Varkan wanted war, he would get one. The cavern trembled long after Lyra disappeared into the shadows. Dust drifted through the cold air like falling stars. Princess Arila knelt on the stone floor, shaking, tears streaking down her cheeks. The betrayal from someone she once loved felt like a blade, slowly cutting her heart apart. Evan knelt beside her and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Hey, look at me, he whispered. Arila slowly lifted her eyes. Why? Why does everyone I love betray me? Evan shook his head. Not everyone. He gave her a soft, steady smile. I'm still here. Her breath hitched, and she wiped her tears. Something about those simple words strengthened her enough to stand. But the moment she did, the cavern shook again. This time much harder. Evan grabbed her arm. We need to move. Varkan's soldiers must be blasting their way in. Arila nodded weakly, and together they hurried through a tunnel leading upward. The air grew warmer, and faint sunlight appeared ahead. When they emerged, they stood on the edge of a hill overlooking the valley. But the sight before them made Arila gasp. Hundreds of soldiers gathered in formation, their armor shining under the rising sun. Giant mechanical beasts, war machines controlled by the nullstone, stood behind them. And at the center, riding a tall armored beast, was General Varkan. Evan cursed under his breath. He brought an army. Arila's legs threatened to give out. There is no escape now. Evan stood tall beside her. Then we make a stand. Arila looked at him as if he were mad. There are hundreds, and we have something they don't, Evan said. You. Before she could respond, a loud horn echoed through the valley. Varkin raised his weapon and pointed it toward them, Arila. His voice boomed. The time has come. Surrender the stone, or watch your world fall. Arila clutched the glowing stone tightly. The memories of her mother, the temple, the heart of Lyria, they filled her with a warmth she couldn't describe. Evan leaned close. Your mother said this stone reacts to your heart. Your truth. Maybe it can do more than we know. Arila stared at the stone. But Lyra used the null stone. The ancient machines might not help us anymore. Evan shrugged. Then we don't use machines. We use you. Arila blinked in surprise, but she could hear it, the soft hum of the stone, the warmth traveling through her fingers. Maybe there was still something left inside it. The soldiers began to march. The ground shook with every step. Evan took a deep breath, holding a metal spear he found near the cavern. It's you and me, Princess. Arila's fear slowly turned into something else: fire, courage, resolve. No, she said, it is us. And my whole world's future. She stepped forward. The stone glowed brighter. Varkin laughed. You cannot fight an army with a toy. Arila raised the stone high. The air rippled. The sky shimmered. Suddenly, beams of blue light erupted from the ground around her, thin pillars forming a circle. The beams connected above her head, forming a glowing sphere of ancient energy. Evan shielded his eyes. What is happening? Arila whispered. The last defense. The ancients built it for the final heir. Varkin shouted, Stop her! The soldiers rushed forward, but the moment they stepped into the light, they were thrown back by invisible force. Their weapons shattered. Varkin roared and lifted the null stone device. This will break her. He activated it. The red pulse shot toward Arila, but Evan jumped in front of her. The pulse hit him instead. Arila screamed. Nitrogen monoxide. Evan collapsed to his knees, gasping. The null pulse drained his body, stealing his strength. He looked up at her with weak eyes. Finish it, Arila. Something inside Arila broke. Her grief turned into pure fire. She raised the stone again, shouting from the depths of her soul, Nitrogen monoxide, more betrayal. No more lies. The sphere expanded outward like a rising sun. The light slammed into the soldiers, disabling their machines. Destroying Varkin's weapons, the null stone shattered in Varkin's hand. Varkin fell to the ground. Defeated, staring in shock as his army collapsed around him, Arila stepped forward, glowing like a living star. Your rule ends now, Uncle. Varkin tried to stand, but his strength was gone. His eyes widened in fear. You cannot be this strong. Arila's voice was calm. I am the rightful heir. With one final pulse of light, the stone sealed Varkin's power forever. When the glow faded, the army lay unconscious, harmless. The machines had turned to dust. Arila rushed to Evan, who lay breathing weakly on the ground. Evan, please, stay with me, she begged. He gave a faint smile. I told you. I'm not leaving. Arila pressed the stone to his chest. The last of its power flowed into him, healing the damage from the null pulse. Evan breathed deeply, color returning to his face. Whoa. Okay. That feels weird. Arila let out a shaky laugh of relief and hugged him tightly. Far across the valley, people began to gather, villagers, soldiers who had once doubted, and loyal followers who still believed in the rightful princess. They saw what she had done. Slowly, one by one, they knelt. Arila stood tall, holding Evan's hand. Evan looked at her and smiled. Looks like your world has a new beginning. Arila squeezed his hand softly. And I want you beside me. Always. The sun rose behind them, lighting the valley in gold, signaling the end of fear and the birth of a new era. The young princess had survived betrayal, The human had become her strength. Together, they became the hope her world never expected.